They did this to you! They're trying to turn us against each other! Just look at them. What do they know about friendship anyway? I'll get them. You watch. I'll take care of those sons of bitches.
Watch it, Alan. I'm shooting. Oh, good Lord. It's unbelievable. It's horrible. I can't understand the reason for such cruelty. It must have something to do with some obscure sexual rite or with the almost profound respect these...
Getting very careless. Blood in your hair. What will we do? You want to look pretty, don't you? Pretty for me.
I can't believe you're not afraid.
All you have to do is piss on it.
Goody cat blood, ain't you?
God damn it, Ralph, get out of here. Go on, get. Leave people alone.
You'll never come back again.
Oh, shut up, Ralph.
It's got a death curse. Evil.
God, my leg! God, my leg!
I'm here. You're here. There's a fog bank out there.
Messenger of God. You're doomed if you stay here.
Demanding everything, including blood.
John, I want this material burned. All of it.
I ain't the crazy one. Remember?
In the lake, the one who attacked me, the one who pulled me underneath the water. And he's still there.
Used servitude.
I think you will all meet again. In hell.
I'd have mercy on his soul. He was one ruthless son of a bitch.
Wendy, stay away! Darling, light of my life. I'm not gonna hurt you. You didn't let me finish my sentence. I said, I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm just gonna bash your brains. I'm gonna bash them right the fuck in.
Well, Dad, are you proud of me now? Do I measure up? Huh?
My son was a son of a bitch, and he was no good. That's it. My son is dead. I don't want to talk about him no more.
Oh, Cindy, you're gonna die.
Mater lacrimarum.
Ma'am,
Mater tenebrarum.
we didn't find any boy.
Mater suspiriorum.
You know as well as I do, it takes all kinds of critters
to make farmer Vincent fritters.
I wonder who the real cannibals are.
All right. So I'm here with Bruce Holecheck. Now, Bruce Holecheck's worked on numerous DVDs and special features and supplemental stuff. He also ran the website Cinema Arcana, right? Did I say that right?
Cinema Arcana.
Arcana. There we go.
Now, although strangely, I think the actual pronunciation should be Cinema Arcana.
Arcana.
But, you know, fuck it. It's my site. I'll say it how I want to.
Okay, so this site basically had all the upcoming DVD and Blu-ray releases for years and a bunch of like articles about VHS releases. It was a really nice source of information. I used to check it pretty much daily back when it was always up and operational. So we're here to talk about Antonio Margheriti. I always say his name wrong. That's close enough for me. You guys,
that is perfect. Margheriti, perfect.
So he's an Italian director. We're here to talk about his movie from 1980 because we're doing a in 1980 horror year deal. Cannibal Apocalypse, aka Invasion of the Flesh Hunters. The cannibals are in the streets, and of course, what the Italian name of Apocalyptic, whatever, something like that.
Apocalypse Domani.
There we go. Yeah, I'll leave that one to you. So, yeah, I know you're a big fan of this one, as am I. So I'm glad to get you on here. I've talked about this movie numerous times on podcasts, and I reviewed it a couple times. It's been with me since I was, probably about 13 years old.
Right. Yeah. First off, thanks for having me. I definitely, I'm glad to be here. I don't really do a lot of podcasts or video interviews or things along those lines, because most of them that I listen to, most of the people that do them are idiots.
Well, most people are idiots.
Right. You're slightly less of an idiot. So I'm glad to be here. It's a fantastic day. But yeah, Cannibal Apocalypse is, it's really been a longtime favorite of mine as well. But it's kind of weird. It seems like in the years since I first saw it, back in the VHS tape trading days, it was a pretty hot commodity on the bootleg market to get an uncut copy of it and just to see it. And everybody seemed to love it at the time. And even when the first DVD came out back in 2001, which weirdly enough was actually the first DVD I was ever thanked on. Nice. And now here it is 21 years later, I'm still doing the same crap. It seems like, when the DVD came out, that was justifiably celebrated as well. Everybody was happy to get a good uncut copy of it with extras, and everybody was really gung-ho for it. But it seems like this most recent Blu-ray that came out, I didn't really see a lot of fanfare for it. I didn't really see a lot of talk about it coming back out, and I was kind of taken aback by that. I thought it should have been a bigger deal, and I don't know if it's just a problem of it coming out from Kino, who isn't really known so much amongst the boutique labels for their horror output so much. Would it be more celebrated if it came out from Vinegar Syndrome or Scream Factory or something like that? And it also seems like some people who are watching it now for the first time, which is weird to me, the idea that, here's this movie that I first saw, close to 30 years ago. And now some people are just seeing it for the first time. But I guess I kind of have to remember that there's a whole new generation of people, that are getting into these movies now, with the Blu-ray boom. But it seems like a lot of people who have watched it, I guess they kind of unfairly compare it to possibly, Cannibal Ferox or Cannibal Holocaust, movies that it's totally not related to in any way, shape, or form. Or just the title alone, Cannibal Apocalypse, it kind of sells this whole like giant epic thing, and it's really kind of like a more restrained, localized story. So I don't know, maybe it's just a problem of people going in with false expectations, or what. But yeah, it's so I'm happy to kind of come on here and share the love for it a bit more, and hopefully talk a few more people into checking it out.
Yeah, because if you look at the Letterboxd ratings and stuff, a lot of people I follow that like typically the same stuff as me, you'll look at them and they're like, oh, this was just okay. And I'm just like, just okay? What? Are we talking about the same fucking movie? Like, so the plot is I don't know, it's a wild plot. We have 3 Vietnam vets who contract a rare viral disease, but it seems to originally stem from some sort of psychological issue, and it becomes a viral issue that can be spread, which I really like. I like that idea that you sent these people over here and now you're going to have to pay for the consequences eventually, which we would see in Death Dream as well from 74. Right. But this is actually handled by Italians, which is pretty unique and pretty cool. And also, Margheriti was very good with action movies and very good with Vietnam. So he did 3 other Vietnam movies, to my knowledge, 2 of which with David Warbeck, of course, one from 1980 itself with The Last Hunter, and 2 more with Tony King from this movie. So he's very familiar with the subject matter. But these Last Hunter, I think, shares a lot of similarities in its downbeatness. Yeah. But I think this one is actually probably the most downbeat. It definitely is in line with the other 1980 output. It's dark. There's just so many things to talk about liking this movie. I guess I kind of gave a half-assed plot here, right? So John Saxon is, I guess he's a Green Beret, although they point out that his outfit is different than everyone else's. But he's basically suffering from this viral disease. 2 of his buddies are worse off at it, and we kind of go to we open up with the Vietnam flashback, and then we kind of go into modern times. We realize that he's suffering, and his buddies are in the hospital. They're about to get released, and shit goes downhill from there. And troubles with his wife and the virus kind of speed things up a little bit until we end up with basically an all-out action film at the end, a gory action film that has splices of Dawn of the Dead and other Margheriti movies and stuff like that. It's really unique. And I love the soundtrack. I think it's basically defies the movie. It's 2 parts. We have the funky kind of playfulness, which is great for the action set pieces. And then we have the morose, sad one, the sad with the strings and everything like that, which I feel encompasses the rest of the film. So I feel like it's definitely a mixture. It's action packed, but also very sad and touching in a strange way.
Yeah, so speaking of the score, which is by Alessandro Blanksteiner, he wasn't really so much a composer. He was more of like a conductor for other people's work. But this is one of the few scores that he did the full score for, and he also contributed some additional music to Fulci's House by the Cemetery. But like you said, it's really a great score. I have the soundtrack CD right here, which really, you buy a lot of these Italian soundtrack CDs, and a lot of them are just reworkings of the same theme for like 15 cues in a row, and it gets a little bit annoying. But this one actually has a good deal of variety, like you mentioned. It kind of has the peppy, funkier songs, and some of the more morose, somber pieces. So it's actually a really good listen. So it's really one of my favorite CDs that I've bought in the last few years.
For sure. So to me, really the heart and soul of this movie is the 3 Vietnam vets. Like, I know there's other characters. Well, the police captain is very comical relief and also entertaining, but
he's hilarious. Yeah, he gets all the best lines. He gets all the best lines. Yeah, I mean, everything from dear God, son, put it down, to
don't say it.
Right.
I'm real sensitive on Fridays. Yeah.
Ashes to ashes, shit to shit.
Yeah.
And it also ends with the greatest ending line ever. Tell him this fucking nightmare is over.
It was like, genuinely a nightmare.
Right. It's like every line out of his mouth is just so gratuitously vulgar. It's fantastic. I guess that's, how they kind of thought Americans spoke. And I think we kind of do.
Should I call for the coroner, Chief?
Yeah. Tell him this fucking nightmare's over.
So we have like the 3 big in here. You got John Saxon, who is one of my personal favorite kind of like leading men, because no matter what he's in, he's always solid. And that's the most generic thing they say about him, but it's 100% true. He's in another movie this year called Beyond Evil, which is not nearly as good as Cannibal Apocalypse. But there is a scene where he gut punches an orderly. And if the whole movie would have been John Saxon gut punching orderlies, it would have been a 4 out of 5 star movie. Unfortunately, it's not that. It's okay. But he's really solid in it. And this one, I think he shines a little bit more. And there was rumors he was drinking a lot during this movie. I never noticed, if that's the case.
Yeah, I don't know. It's funny that you mentioned him after mentioning the script. So the script by Dardano Cecchetti, who is probably easier to name what he didn't write more than
all the best
what
stuff
he did. But yeah, I mean, he's worked with Lenzi, Fulci, wrote Zombie, Gates of Hell, New York Ripper, all that stuff, Demons. He did for Lombardo Bava, and I mean, just you look down his roster from like the mid 70s to the mid 80s, and it's pretty much most of the greats.
Yeah.
So the idea that he introduced into this movie was almost looking at it as sort of, an allegory for PTSD. The soldiers go over there and things are so bad, they bring something home with them. And of course, in this movie, what they bring home with them is a cannibalistic virus. And that's probably about as deep as the script gets. It's very, kind of surface level, but it works, in the framework of this movie. I really think it works. And according to John Saxon, it was the script that actually brought him to this movie. He read the script and he said it came along at a perfect time. He was, kind of in the middle of a divorce. He had 2 house payments going on and really needed some money. But he read the script and he really liked what he saw. He later told me that the script he got actually didn't have a lot of the violent scenes in it. So when he read it, he thought it was going to be one kind of movie, sort of like this drama, this sort of allegory about what can happen to the human psyche in war, and what baggage we bring home. But when he got on set, there were certain scenes where they were working. He said people like brought out like trays of bloody meat, and he's like, well, what the heck is this? And Antonio was just like, don't worry about it. And he's like, no, this isn't the movie I signed up to make. And funny enough, the original script for this movie was actually even more graphic than what we ended up seeing. Like the scene with the nurse when she bites the tongue out of the guy. The original script of that, she was supposed to bite off his dick and spit it out on the floor. Right. So yeah, it's really kind of funny that they pulled a bit of a bait and switch on John Saxon. But yeah, like you said, he was great. Growing up, I always kind of knew him originally, I guess, as the dad in Nightmare on Elm Street.
Of course.
And then, going back a little further, eventually, going through all the Kung Fu movies and stuff, saw him in Enter the Dragon, I got the Laserdisc of that. So like those were really the two big ones for me that I knew him from by the time I saw this. And Black Christmas too, of course. But he really turns in a really solid performance in this, probably better than the material justifies.
Oh yeah, but he elevates it because of that.
Exactly.
Without him, this movie is not as good, not at all.
Right.
You mentioned the PTSD, which is funny because he's in a really excellent movie from the 60s. I don't know if you've seen it, called War Hunt with Robert Redford.
I have not.
He plays a really violent soldier, and he's clearly suffering from some sort of disorder, and he just goes out at night, and I think it's probably the Korean War? I can't think of which one. It's the 60s, not Vietnam. But he ends up going out and just killing people at night on purpose, like risking. It's a strange film. Like, it's a very good film too. It's dark, in that kind of sense. It's been a while since I watched it, but no, the other cast members are great too. And Giovanni Lombardo Radice was great. He had a great year in '80. He had 3 heavy hitters in House on the Edge of the Park, City of the Living Dead, Gates of Hell, and this one.
Right.
And he's just tremendous in this one, and he's great to go against Saxon because Saxon's very serious and straightforward and tough and collected, while Giovanni Lombardo Radice is the opposite. He's all over the place. He's very spastic and smaller, and just he's almost like a younger brother to him. It works pretty well with that.
Yeah, which is kind of the role that Johnny played in a lot of the titles from around that period. Really, all 3 of those he kind of plays.
Yes.
The bit weaker in the bunch, sort of the weakest link. But he's great. I met him doing an interview years back for the Gates of Hell for the Blue Underground Blu-ray. Went out to dinner and stuff with him, and he's fantastic. He's just the greatest guy. And according to him, he was at the time. Everybody was just coked up and running around while he was making these movies. But he's always a good guy to see pop up in one of these things. You're always happy to see him.
Oh, because his demises as well. His demise in all these movies, you're like, oh shit. And also, even in the fanzine days, he was always described as the Pastaland whipping boy, just because all of his movies, his death scenes were legendary. They're usually the showstoppers of the entire movie, and you can probably argue that his death scene in this is probably the goriest bit in the movie, and probably like I said, the showstopper. It's the most
the point of the movie, right?
Most clever too, and he's got a lot of the best scenes in the movie. Yankee Doodle got shot up, all that.
Yeah,
kind of
he's
stuff.
walking around whistling Yankee Doodle for no apparent reason.
It's got I think my favorite line in the movie is when Saxon's like, "All you have to do is piss on it." Remember?
Remember? Right.
Yeah, that's my favorite whole scene. But then we end with the King of Screaming, Tony King, who every single movie I've seen him in, including Raiders from Atlantis and Tiger Joe, he just screams. But he's great because he's like the more athletic one of the 3. The kind of I guess the brute force of the 3, and the 3 of them work together really well in this.
Yeah. Well, Tony King was an athlete.
Yeah.
He got drafted to the Buffalo Bills, and played for 1 season. So strangely enough, him and his brother were actually on the same team at the same time, which was the first time in NFL history that 2 African American brothers were actually playing for the same team at the same time, and that actually later led to him. He started this long campaign to get them into the Football Hall of Fame because of that, and I believe they actually succeeded.
That's cool.
Yeah, but he had a real strange career trajectory too. He sort of went from football to sort of accidentally acting. He kind of wandered onto certain film sets and first found extra work and then started trying to go into some more sizable roles. And I think he had some early appearances. I think he said Panic in Needle Park and Shaft and things like that. And The Godfather, he said, was the big one that, once you had The Godfather on your resume, he said it was a lot easier to get other work because, having a substantial movie like that on there. But besides this, for Margheriti, like you said, he showed up in The Last Hunter, which, interesting enough, so the title of this one, Apocalypse Domani, Apocalypse Tomorrow, obviously a riff on Coppola's Apocalypse Now, but strangely, The Last Hunter should be the movie with the title Apocalypse Domani.
Exactly.
Because it's such aping of the structure of Apocalypse Now that really that should be the movie with this title, but it's not. It's kind of almost a little bit nonsensical for this movie, but it would fit perfectly for The Last Hunter.
Now when I talked about like the 4 Vietnam movies before, somebody was like, I feel like Cannibal Apocalypse, Last Hunter, and Tiger Joe are the kind of trilogy, but they're like they disagreed and felt like The Last Tornado fit in there.
Tornado's in there
Apocalypse.
too. Yeah.
So there's 4 of them, but
yeah. I mean, whatever. It's
whatever.
none of it's an official. It's not like there was an official run. But yeah, they're all pretty enjoyable. And a lot of those are on German Blu-ray. Like I know I picked up like Tornado and some other things like Codename Wild Geese. And
yeah, I didn't get Tiger Joe. I think that got put out in like a media book or something later.
Yeah,
down the line.
I don't have that one either.
That looked iffy to me. Sometimes those media books are very iffy releases.
Right.
You don't know if you're just getting an upscaled VHS for $49.99 and a nice hardbox cover or something like that. So you gotta be very careful with that.
Yeah, I actually just saw a 35 millimeter print of that a few years ago.
Yeah.
Exhumed Films out here in Philly did a 5-film Antonio Margheriti-thon. So yeah, imagine that sitting down for 5 35 millimeter Margheriti films. They did like Ark of the Sun God was there, which is sort of like his Raiders of the Lost Ark.
That's a Warbeck too, right?
Yeah. And that's a funny one actually. There's an entire scene in that, a car chase scene that Margheriti, we'll talk about him I guess in a little bit. But he loved miniatures, and there's an entire car chase scene in that movie where like the stunt is filmed with miniatures, like a car jumping over a train. And I remember seeing that on VHS originally and being like, "Is that a miniature?" And thinking to myself, "Well, maybe seeing it on the big screen, it won't be as noticeable. You see it on the big screen, bullshit. It's just as noticeable."
It's like seeing Killer Fish on Blu-ray, and you're like, "This is all miniatures. Maybe it's not even from this movie. Maybe they lifted it from another movie. I don't know." That's another Margheriti movie. So where's this compare for his movies? Do you?
Before we get into that, I want to jump back into some of the other cast because this movie, I mean, the cast is insane. It's just full of familiar
Venantini
faces.
is here too. Yeah.
Yeah. So Tony King, after acting for a while, he actually converted to Islam. Once the acting roles started drying up, he changed his name to Malik Farrakhan, which I thought was Malik Farrakhan until I heard him pronounce it, but it's Malik Farrakhan. And he actually became the head of security for Public Enemy.
That's crazy.
The rap band, and has been with them for like decades. So that's like his current gig. So he went from being a pro football player to being an actor and then to being the head of security for Public Enemy.
That's a crazy life.
Right. What an insane career trajectory that is. And there were some people that were actually making a documentary about him years ago, but I don't know if it was ever actually finished. I know they had started like a Indiegogo page or something trying to get some finishing funds. I know they filmed a lot. I can't remember the title of it offhand. I think it's called something like A Long Way to the NFL Hall of Fame, but that's not the actual title, but it's close to that. But yeah, it's really kind of interesting. He has a lot of interesting stories, but at the same time, his memory seems real hazy on like a lot of these. The Italian
commentary for Raiders from Atlantis wasn't exactly the most in depth. He was like, "We had a lot of fun." He's like, "We had a lot of fun." That's
right.
Yeah. Well, when I met John Saxton, I asked him, and like at Wasteland, I was like, "Would you have anything from Cannibal Apocalypse?" Because that's what I wanted him to sign. And he had like a handler, and she was like, and he was just like, he was like. And I don't know if he knew it from a different title or he just did not remember the movie at the time. You know what I mean?
Right. I met him at so Gary and Sue Svela, who live out here. They run Midnight Marquee Press, and they used to do a convention every year called FanX, and they had John Saxon out one year. And because I was friends with them, and we had a lot of other friends that came out to that show from out of town and stuff. The Svelas used to throw a party at their house before FanX, every year. Yeah. So we actually went out over to their place, and they have like a nice home theater, and we sat down and we were watching. I think it was a Fistful of Dollars or something, and John Saxon was there with us, watching these Sergio Leone spaghetti westerns. And yeah, that's where I kind of grilled him a little bit about it, and he remembered it. Like I had to kind of remind him about it, and it's the one where you're in Vietnam and the cannibals and you get bit, and with the little girl next door, and he sort of remembered some of that. And that's where he told me that the original script, that he thought he was kind of involved in a different movie than what it kind of turned out to be. I think at that point he still hadn't even seen it, and his memories were a little bit foggy on it. Later on, when they interviewed him for the DVD of it, he seemed to recall it a bit more. But yeah, it's real funny.
Yeah, like going back, it was strange. Like I remember everybody seemed to really enjoy that one, but there was nearly nothing when that Blu-ray hit. Like I was so excited. Really I ordered 2 copies because I was like, I can't wait. And I ended up getting 2 copies, and I think I sent one as a gift. But yeah, and it looks great. The Blu-ray looks great.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah, it was unfortunately, that was one that I actually really wanted to do a commentary for.
Yeah.
And it was one that I kind of, when I sent them, Kino an email saying, I'd love to do a commentary for this. Me and Nathaniel Thompson wanted to do it because Nathaniel, Nathaniel was the one that produced the DVD for Image. He, worked over at Image then. And that was actually how I became friends with Nathaniel, 20 some years ago. And now here it is, 20 years later, and we're doing like commentaries for stuff. But I really wanted to do that one. I sent them emails, but they went with Tim Lucas instead. I guess he's a bit more of a name. But
yeah, Tim Lucas's commentary is really good on that too. I listened to it a couple times, and he points out all these things that really nice touches and everything. And he seems to be a fan. And if Tim Lucas is a fan, that should give other people out there, because I know he likes a lot of the same stuff, but he's mostly a Bava guy. So and Bava's king. So I don't know. Like he points out the mixture of this, like being a Romero, Cronenberg, Fulci, all that stuff, and you're like, it genuinely is very much. Yeah. I think very much so. Surprisingly, it fits most with Cronenberg, which is kind of crazy to think.
Yeah. Well, action, it's a contagion movie, right? It has very much a rabid feel.
Yeah.
It feels a bit, I know there's some similarities to, some can claim that there's some Dawn of the Dead influence, but I actually feel more the Crazies. Yeah. It really has a lot of that feel. And, some of the other Contagion movies like I Drink Your Blood or They Came From Within, things like that. But yeah, Margheriti doesn't really direct it so much like a horror movie. Like you're saying, it was kind of, in that run of Vietnam movies he was doing. And he was never so much a horror guy, and he really wasn't a gore guy either. Some of his earlier movies have like a little bit here and there, like the girl getting her nose bitten off by rats in The Virgin of Nuremberg. But mainly at that time he was doing, spy films, a bunch of peplum, Muscle Man movies. Some of his most widely distributed movies were his space movies that he did in the 60s. And then towards the 70s, he was kind of a journeyman. He'd go wherever the money was. He, made a giallo, he made some spaghetti western, some things like that. But he doesn't really direct it so much for suspense per se. It feels more like he's directing it like an action movie. And this, it's, Edmondo Amati, who produced it, they basically made their pre-sales with Japanese and German sales. So they pretty much made back the entirety of the budget with just those 2 territories sold. But the demands were for violent motion pictures. So you kind of see that with this and The Last Hunter, which are, to me, easily Margheriti's 2 goriest films. Mm-hmm. And to me, because of that, probably my 2 favorite Margheriti films on top of that.
And the gore comes out of almost nowhere. Like it's like a typical kind of action. Then the lady in the beginning, she's burned and she falls in the hole naked. And you're like, Jesus, that came out of nowhere. And then it has like that almost playful music. And then it turns real dark when she goes in the hole. And
yeah.
And then like, that's pretty rough. And like, it does. It's that Last Hunter too, especially when they go in there and they butcher the last kind of what John Steiner's group is, and it's real gory and violent. You're like, this is excessive as shit. Very mean-spirited movies. And you said these 2 are probably your favorite Margheritis. I know like Killer Fish is pretty ridiculous, and Naked You Die is very fun and light, kind of in that mystery thriller kind of deal. I said Jolly. It's been a long time since I watched that movie. Naked You Die.
I think so.
And then what are some other ones? The Long Hair of Death. He had the gothic face. So, like literally, he touched everything. He wasn't exactly. He couldn't really. Like he's like a Umberto Lenzi or a Sergio Martino. They would just touch whatever, right?
Right.
So
but I do find his earlier movies more interesting. It seems like in the 70s, like he was kind of like less interested in that. But yeah, I really like Wild Wild Planet and the Snow Devils and some of that early stuff that he did. I'd love to see more of that kind of stuff hit blue. I'd love to see more spy movies in general hit blue. I think a lot of them are really fun, but that, like, between those and the Peplum, the Muscle Man movies, those are like probably two of the most under upgraded genres out there. I mean, there's just not much in the way of market for them, I guess.
I'm not too familiar with a lot of those either, or the Italian comedies. Like, that's a little bit of a light subject because when I was growing up, none of those were released, and it wasn't a focus for me. I know of like some of the spy stuff, and I think I've seen one of Margheriti's space ones. Did Film Detective just put one out, right?
Yeah, they did. Battle of the Worlds, which is one that I haven't actually seen before.
I wasn't too thrilled with it. I'm gonna be honest.
I haven't watched it yet.
It wasn't my number one Margarita movie. Let's put it that way. But the release is nice. It's got a good features on there, and that stuff helps with the context and everything like that.
Right.
So if you compare this to the other Cannibal movies, it always got lumped in with the Cannibal movies.
So before we get to that, I do want to jump back and talk about some of these other cast members.
Oh yeah, we got a couple in there.
Yeah, so I mean, we've talked about Saxon, Giovanni, Lombardo, Radice, Tony King, or Malik Farrakhan.
Yep.
Cinzia De Carolis. She is the neighbor, the sort of Lolita-esque neighbor. So she actually was a child star. Most notably, to me anyway, she's the little girl in Argento's Cat of Nine Tails.
The one with the blind guy,
with
right?
Carl Martin, right.
Yeah.
So that's her as the little girl. And she did some singles, records. She had like a singing career side of that. She kept doing like some child roles until, like, as soon as she was legal, she pretty much tried to break that child star image. She appeared in men's magazines, like, she was in the Italian Playboy. She did this movie right before this called Libidine. It's this real kind of like twisted sex snake mad scientist movie. It's stars also Marina Friesi, who is like Italy's queen of hardcore. Transsexual Ajita Wilson's in it.
She was really just in Escape from Hell, which I rewatched.
Which that one's a fun one too, actually.
It's actually better. It's better than the Savage Island. But they cut into. That's
very much so. Shit. Although that's weird seeing Penn Jillette in that.
I barely remember that for good reason. Savage Island was just a turd.
Yeah, with he's in one of the scenes with Linda Blair, if memory serves. Libidine's like super fucking sleazy. So she did that. She did the Playboy spread, and then jumped to this where she kind of, it's weird because she still, even though she's I think she's like 19 when she made this. She's still really young looking, so it just kind of makes that whole scene
really gross. For sure.
Right, with John Saxon just really kind of just a little, it makes you a little bit queasy.
And Saxon's the last guy too you'd think would do something like that,
right?
So it's really uncomfortable, and the way his demeanor is about the whole situation just makes it seem real, and it's just unpleasant as fuck, to be honest.
Right. But so she went from that to, she actually ended up becoming a voice actress and a director of dubbing. So she was like the voice of Madonna in like a whatever theatrical releases Madonna had, like Desperately Seeking Susan and things like that. Who's That Girl? She was the voice of Madonna in those. She was the voice of Courtney Cox in the Scream movies when they were released in Italy.
That's crazy.
And she made a huge career not only doing dubbing for live action movies, but also anime. So a lot of anime releases in Italy contain her voice, or she's the director of dubbing. So yeah, she went, kind of from a child actress, singing, little novelty records, to then just like a brief period of like real sleazy shit, and then to a whole new career as voice talent.
I don't think she could have got out of it though, because I feel like Italy at that time was all sleazy shit, right?
Right.
Like that, like we said, 1980 was all like that. Every movie was like, if there's not a rape scene, we're not selling this. That's what it really felt like, to be honest.
Right.
I know the what was the guy who played Dr. Phil? He's a Spanish actor, right? I know he pops up in a few things. I love to hate him in this. He's such a Weasley bastard.
Right. Well, he's the one that's saddled with, like, that's the other funny thing about this. It takes place in Atlanta. They shot in Decatur. They shot in Decatur, Georgia. So like the Nick Alexander team, who are responsible for a lot of the dubbing of these things, they did the dubbing for this, and you can hear their voices a lot. Like Venantino Venantini, who plays the cop who is kind of like chaperoning around the detective for most of the movie. He's actually voiced by Nick Alexander.
Is that Ray Lovelock too in Zombie? Same voice?
Yeah, and
I could tell.
Or Al Cleaver in Zombie.
Al Cleaver, yeah.
Yeah.
No, Ray Lovelock. Jesus Christ, I'm getting old. Yeah, Al Cleaver, of course. Cleaver, whatever. Yeah.
Right.
What's his real name? It's something very long.
Pierre Luigi.
Yeah.
Something. I
can't believe I mixed up Ray Lovelock. Right. That would be a completely different movie. But no, exactly. That very deep voice.
Yeah, that'd be Living Dead Manchester Morgan.
I think that's the first time I realized the dubbing was because I've seen Zombie when I was like 12 numerous times. And I watched this a couple times like, that guy from City of the Living Dead is voiced by that guy.
Yeah. Nick Alexander's voice is so recognizable. But yeah, like a lot of the secondary characters in this, they really saddle them with these totally ridiculous, like Georgia accents. They tried to give them like this Southern accent, but it's like a bunch of Italian. So it's like they don't know what even a Georgia accent sounds like. So yeah, I think Dr. Phil the whole time is just like, well, let me take a look at that.
Oh, that guy. Yeah. And then the other doctor, Dr. Phil's the tongue guy, right?
Is he? Okay, I can't remember.
No, the one doctor who is obsessed with the
nurse,
Saxon's wife.
Right. Okay.
What's his name? And then Dr. Phil, the one who's obsessed with the nurse, has the worst dubbing I've ever heard.
Right.
And he gets his tongue bitten out. That guy is just like, it's just over the top. It's just so bad. And that was the same issue with Eaten Alive. When the Janet Argan, her dubbing was supposed to be like a Southern belle, and it was the worst. It was the absolute worst. But it's again, it comes back to like Italy having that weird obsession with making movies in Georgia, like The Beyond and Madhouse, I believe was an Italian one. That's a really that's an underrated flick too. And then The Visitor too, I think is
The Visitor. There were some tax breaks around this time in Georgia, so that's why you got stuff like The Gates of Hell down there. You got The Visitor, Lamberto Bava's Blast Fighter.
Even Macabre, right?
I think, was Macabre there or was Macabre Louisiana?
Louisiana, definitely down south though.
Yeah. And Louisiana was another
that was
state
The Beyond.
The Beyond was,
The Beyond was Louisiana as well. And then Madhouse was Georgia, or I think so.
But I mean they kind of were doing that to sort of entice film productions in there, and the Italians are more than happy to take them up on it. Which I think is great. It kind of almost gives them like this weird regional feel. Like you don't really see movies shot like in Decatur too often, so I mean like the flea market and the strip malls and right. So I kind of like the sort of feel that gives them. Plus, I mean the Italians, it was all alien to them, so they kind of film it a bit differently, I feel like, than Americans would if they came in.
Well, especially the cemeteries, right?
Right. Yeah, so it is interesting. So we did bring up the nurse. So she's an actress named May Heatherly. So she's the fourth of the quartet of these cannibals that are running around. She was actually an American actress, or she was born in America but moved to Spain at like a real young age. Kind of came back to the U.S., did some television roles when she decided she wanted to be an actor, but then to get film work, she actually moved back to Spain and started doing some stuff. Some European productions. She was in Beaks the movie, aka Birds of Prey. Some stuff like that. But her biggest, she was in Edge of the Axe, I think. Larraz's Edge of the Axe. But her biggest role, which weirdly I didn't realize this for years. She is the bitchy mom at the beginning of Pieces. Who throws away the jigsaw puzzle, and the kid axes her in the head, and chops her off. Yeah, that's her. That's the nurse from Cannibal Apocalypse. Right? Yeah, and it's funny because I went back and looked at it. I'm like, yep, sure enough. I'm like, that's her. That's crazy.
That is crazy.
I never made that connection like in the VHS days or even in the DVD days. It wasn't until looking at it for this that I realized that.
And all the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put the pieces together.
Where did this filth come from? Answer me! Answer me! What I have to put up with? You dirty-minded little brat, playing with filth like this, just like your father. If you don't watch out, that's who you're gonna grow up like. And I can tell you a couple of things about him. You bastard! I'll kill you if I ever find stuff like that in the house again. Go get a plastic bag.
Yeah, I never noticed that at all. And like,
Right.
I know there's probably like Venantini was in a bunch of movies. That guy was
Well,
like,
yeah,
300 movies.
Venantino Venantini. Yeah, he was in. I mean, most notably, it's funny because several people from this cast went right on to Gates of Hell.
Yeah.
Or City of the Living Dead, whatever you want to call it. To me, it's always Gates of Hell. That's how I grew up knowing it on
It's a
VHS.
better title.
So, yeah. But yeah, he's the one that puts John Morgan's head in the drill. But well, before I get off the subject of him, I just watched him in that Vinegar Syndrome Giallo box that recently came out. He's in one called 9 Guests for a Crime, I believe it's called. There is a scene of him walking around this beach where I swear to God, he is wearing these cut-off jean shorts that might as well be Daisy Dukes. Because there's a shot of him walking like away from the camera, and literally you can see his hairy man ass cheeks hanging out the bottom of these jean shorts. Me and a buddy were watching that, and we were dying. We're like, what the hell are they thinking?
I think he was in that. He's definitely in the one with Joe Don Baker, and I feel like he's in a little Speedo for half the fucking movie around the pool, and he's the bad guy, just sitting around the phone.
That sounds about right. Right.
It was about right. Yeah. I mean, but I've always liked him.
Yeah.
I feel like.
He's in like, and he's in some weird stuff too. He's like in the Beast in Space, that weird like space.
That's
porno
1980
thing.
as well. I've never watched
is it?
that, but it's on my list. One of the last 10 I'm going to watch.
Yeah, that's a weird sleazy one too.
And I believe he's in Seven Deaths in a Cat's Eye. Another Margheriti. Is that a Margheriti?
Yeah, that is a Margheriti. Yeah,
I think he is in that.
So yeah, if you watch the Beast in Space, try to get the XXX cut.
I think I have the XXX cut on DVD.
It's insane. But his son is also in this, Luca Venantini, who plays the neighbor Bobby, the little boy next door. And every time he goes running in this movie, I just think of him in Gates of Hell at that last shot of him running towards the camera where the frame cracks up.
Supposedly Fulci might have spilled coffee on the negative.
That's right, allegedly, right? Who knows?
Yeah,
who knows the true story behind that? I kind of like it,
I like that movie. It's not going to change how I feel about it at the end.
Exactly.
Of the day.
It's just kind of like another just ridiculous ending. You're like, whatever, like that's good enough for me. But between all of those people, I mean, it's just the supporting cast in this movie is absolutely outrageous. I know we talked a little bit about Wallace Wilkinson, who plays the main sheriff with the foul mouth.
Yeah.
He was a Georgia actor, so he actually wasn't an Italian guy, but he did work in some stuff, like he had small roles in like The Visitor, and he actually showed up in Invasion USA with Chuck Norris. But yeah, apparently he was like like a gym teacher or something, or like a sports coach for like a high school or something, and then moved on to acting, did like a lot of regional stuff, and then pretty much just stayed around Georgia.
I feel like he improv'd half of his dialogue.
I would not be surprised.
It feels like he did. Every time you have something that's real regional in a movie made by somebody, it's like, this is improv. Like Lee Ermey improv'd all his dialogue in the Texas Chainsaw remake, which is probably the reason he's the best thing about it. You know what I mean? Because he's like, I'm not saying this garbage. Let me just do my own shit. As far as comparing to the other Cannibal movies, it's rather unfair because it got lumped in, and that's probably the reason it made. I know the rat frying scene with the blow is what did it.
Right.
But in reality, it was the fucking title, because it was cannibal. They're seeing the cannibals, so they're like, shit, no. They just saw Cannibal Holocaust and Cannibal Ferox. They're throwing it on the list.
Right.
And it's nothing like them. I mean,
nothing. Right. Yeah, like we said before, it's a lot more akin to those Contagion movies, like you were saying, especially Rabid. I mean, Rabid, really feels very similar, and they bring it up multiple times that this is like rabies.
Exactly. And even the scene in the police station is, you could have put that in Rabid.
Oh, right.
No one would have said shit. They would have been like, oh, that's a Rabid scene.
Yeah. So that's actually so the cop that bites off the woman's boob.
Director's son.
It's director's son, Eduardo. Yeah.
Shares my last name. Parker.
There you go.
There's also a Parker in Let Sleeping Corpses Lie, and a Benson, who is my mom's maiden name. They only mention Parker, but Benson's my mom's maiden name, and Benson bites it. They're both English. They're both UK names, so it makes sense.
It's funny, having done the commentary to Let Sleeping Corpses Lie, you would think that I would remember that, but I totally don't.
Well, I would remember.
Is he the one? Is he the one cop who? My favorite line in the entire movie of Let Sleeping Corpses Lie. Yeah, I'm just mad about apples. It's like it's so random and so weird.
It's a memorable last line. And like Arthur Kennedy looks like he hasn't slept in 8 days, and he's sitting next to me. He's like, he gives him like a polite laugh. Like, fuck off. No, but Benson's the one who dies in the crypt. before Benson.
Okay.
And then they just mentioned Parker in passing, I think. I don't think I don't think it's that guy who says the apples, but it might be because they mentioned the name. That got me so strange.
It's so good.
Yeah, this is actually, I think, my second favorite cannibal film. If we're talking Italian cannibal films, I know it's not in the same jungle kind of.
Yeah, I was going to say, I can't even class it with them because it's a completely different thing. If anything, I'd be a little more inclined to put it with some of the zombie movies, but it's really not that either. It's
rabid.
Right.
Which is kind of a zombie movie, kind of not. The Crazy's kind of a zombie movie, kind of not. The
I drink your blood.
They're all kind of zombie movies. They're kind of not,
Yeah, they're right. The sadness, right? Yeah, I didn't even think about that. But yeah. That's another, kind of a new era Contagion movie, which I guess 28 Days Later and all that shit too.
But it's funny that like people think 28 Days Later was the first one to do it. It's like, well, or the sadness is like the Crazies and stuff did this stuff. And like lots of movies, Rabid, where people just start to slip. They're not completely gone, but they're there. They're almost there.
Umberto Lenzi's Nightmare City.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure those were meatballs, though. That's Outer Space Meatball Men. That's 1980 as well, and it's a lovely movie. Like I said, Tim Lucas in the commentary is mentioning like in the sewer, it was very much reminiscent of Alien. Mm-hmm. And I was like, yes, but then we're thinking like if you look at 1979, we had 1978 and 79, we have Dawn of the Dead, we have Alien, we have Zombie. Every single Italian movie had some of that in there. Every single Italian movie from that time, and almost all the American movies had some influence from Dawn of the Dead or Alien or Zombie in there somehow. Yeah. So you could just pin all the little details and everything like that. So I mean, I just don't understand why people don't enjoy this one. I don't know what's holding it back.
No, me neither. Yeah, because like we've discussed, I think it's really a lot of fun. I think it's paced well. The score is fantastic. It's got an amazing cast, all of whom I think, especially Saxon, give a better performance than the material necessitates. And as so, it kind of gives it a bit more of gravitas. Some of the scenes with him and his wife, like especially at the end, they're actually kind of touching.
Yeah, I agree. The ending's great.
Yeah. I definitely, I don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it. I can't imagine someone not watching the movie and then deciding to sit down and watch this.
I agree. Unless it just pops up on the podcast feed and they just listen to absolutely everything.
Right. But yeah, I definitely think it's one that should be enjoying a better reputation or not necessarily a better reputation, but it should just be more widely praised these days. And like I said, back in the old days, it was. Everybody loved it back in the VHS days. So I don't know what the hell happened.
So if you had to give one performance from all three of the lead actors in here that you would recommend for somebody to watch, that's not this one. Saxon, for Giovanni, Lombardo, Radice, and for Tony King.
Oh, Jesus. Let's see. Tony King was really good in one called Report to the Commissioner, a New York sort of crime movie. I thought he was really good in that.
Kino Blu-ray, if you're looking.
Yes. My buddy Giovanni. God, he's always good though. I'll go with a more obscure one. Not no one's going to consider this his best performance, but he popped up in it, and I was surprised that he was in it because I didn't realize he was when I started watching it. But it was a really fun movie. It is called. God, I hope I get the title right. Deadly Impact by, I think it's
Fred Williamson in that?
No. Hold on.
I know that movie. I don't know if I ever watched it.
It's an action movie. It is by, I want to say, Fabrizio De Angelis.
Okay.
So it's directed Fabrizio De Angelis. It stars Bo Svensson, Fred Williamson.
Yeah, I thought so. I thought he was in that because I think I have like one of those, or bought one of those really shitty, like low quality DVDs. But I was like, I can't watch this. Like 20 years ago.
Yeah, so there was a period of time in the mid 90s, I guess, mid to late 90s, where there was a bootleg tape company called Creature Feature Video, and somehow they got in touch with me about doing reviews of their tapes for their bootleg catalog. Basically just paragraph blurbs trying to sell these movies. The guy that ran the company didn't have time to watch and write up all this shit, so he would just send me a box of tapes. And I was like, in my teens, normally spending, 15, $20 on bootlegs. So to have somebody just send me a box of tapes, I was like, this is the greatest gig ever. I was like, and I just got to write a paragraph about these. I'm like, this is fantastic. But that was one of the ones that they sent me way back when. And I don't think I've watched it since, because I don't think that there's been a good release of it.
No, I don't think so.
But I just remember the action scenes being like ridiculously over the top, like really great car crashes and stuff. Almost to the point where it was almost comical. But yeah, that was a fun one. I'd really actually like to see a good, nice, cleaned up print of that. I don't know what the market is for that sort of stuff these days, sort of like mid-tier Italian action movies, but to me it'd be a day one purchase. Stuff like that, or like Thunder Warrior, another Fabrizio De Angelis thing. That would be fantastic to see those.
He's the director of. Did he do Killer Crocodile?
Yeah, he did the first Killer Crocodile. Larry Ludman was his usual pseudonym. I think he did whatever.
Well, I can say Larry Ludman's better than Larry Buchanan. Anybody's seen Loch Ness Horror?
Very true.
Run very far away.
So let me. I'm trying to think a good John Saxon one that I would recommend. That's not the usual.
For anybody who doesn't know, he's obviously in Tenebrae and Nightmare on Elm Street, the big ones and stuff, and he's fantastic in those movies.
Right? Yeah, Tenebrae is probably my favorite Argento movie, and probably my favorite Giallo. I love Tenebrae so much. I think it's so tightly scripted. It's super gory.
The twist is great too.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's really a well thought out. It's filmed beautifully. I love the score.
And Dario gets to make comments about his critics, which he loves doing.
Right. Yeah, there's nothing I dislike about Tenebrae. Jesus Christ. So John Saxon, 197 credits. That is so many. So many. All right. Okay, so you got all his like teen idol stuff. And then you got like his westerns and his TV stuff. The Evil Eye, Mario Bava's Evil Eye, was a good one. Queen of Blood, Curtis Harrington, that was a good one. Episode of the Time Tunnel.
I know mine if I had to give one right now.
Well, hold on.
Let's see if they match up.
I was gonna say I don't want you to steal mine.
No.
Joe Kidd with Clint Eastwood. Enter the Dragon, of course. Black Christmas. He did a lot of TV. Mitchell with Joe Don Baker.
I heard that's supposed to be infamously bad.
I like it.
But it's one of those ones that got put on Mystery Science Theater, so everybody who saw it on there automatically thinks it's bad, right?
So, yeah. So, I totally forgot that John Saxon is in my favorite Poliziotteschi movie of all time, which is Umberto Lenzi's Violent Naples.
Okay.
So that would be my recommendation. Hands down. I first picked that up on VHS as Violent Protection. And it was one of those first movies that I sort of was kind of exploring outside the realm of horror movies a bit, and looking at that, I'm like, oh, I think this is Italian. So I rented it, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, this movie is amazing. So yeah, if you have not seen Violent Naples, definitely check it out. It's my favorite Poliziotteschi.
I don't think I've seen that one.
Yeah, there's not really a good English-friendly release of it. I think like Film Art or somebody was supposed to do it in Germany. Hopefully that comes to fruition. It's really a great movie. I also saw in here Strange Shadows in an Empty Room, which I also really, really like.
Strange Shadows. Is Stuart Whitman in that one?
Yes, yeah. He has Tisa Farrow, sort of like a combo Jolly and cop thriller. Yeah, Kino put that out.
Yeah, that's a strange film.
Yeah.
There's like elongated scene where Stuart Whitman beats up a gay guy, if I remember correctly.
It's a gang full of transvestites. He gets in like this big fight with them, like outside in their apartment, or is it just one?
It's a strange film.
Yeah, I can't remember, but yeah, he like ends up, I think, sticking like the curling iron up his ass or something.
Yeah, like, inappropriate for the
yeah.
But I would recommend people check out Battle Beyond the Stars. It's a very common movie, but his performance in that was just so unique and different for him because he plays an alien.
Right.
And his freak out at the end is one of my favorites. But I want to live forever. I want to go down the list of some 1980 horror movies or exploitation movies and just say better or worse.
Okay.
For you, better or worse? If I could say, do you like this better than Cannibal Apocalypse or worse?
Okay.
So, Cannibal Holocaust.
Jesus. It's more fun to watch, but Cannibal Holocaust is the more powerful film.
Okay.
We'll
do them quick.
Well, we don't have to. I mean, I got time. It don't matter. Unless you're look. Am I boring you?
No, that's not it. No, I just don't want to. I was just gonna give you a bunch of them.
Good. I don't give a shit. I'd go Cannibal Holocaust as the better film, the more important. Although Cannibal Apocalypse is more fun to watch. Cannibal Holocaust is kind of a kick in the nuts every time you sit down and watch it. But it's great.
Sticking with Deodato, House on the Edge of the Park or Cannibal Apocalypse?
I may give the edge slightly to this one. Ooh. Even the I know that's tough though. They're probably just about equal, really. I do like them both a lot. Obviously, having done the commentary with Ettinger for House on the Edge of the Park, which I think might be our best commentary. Really,
it's very good commentary.
That's a really good, that's a really well put together movie. But I think this one is too. I might like the soundtrack to this one better. And this one gets a little gorier. That one's more of a chamber piece. It's kind of like just locking a bunch of people in a room and watch it. Just watch sadism for 90 minutes. So I might give it to this one just very slightly.
So sticking with Johnny Morgan, we'll go with City of the Living Dead or Gates of Hell.
God, this is tough.
It's a tough year. It's got to be the best horror year, right?
Right.
It's got to be the best year.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, literally all of these movies are great. Everything you're listing are great.
Like all top hundreds, all top 100 movies. Yeah.
So Gates of Hell is not my favorite Fulci movie, which would probably always go zombie, but that might be more sentimental value than anything else because that was really the first one I saw, and was like a game changer in my life. Like that eyeball scene, like really knocked it open.
Zombie's a game changer for sure.
I'm like, I need to see everything this guy made, and this was pre-internet, so I didn't know how to find these things. I used to have this book that I bought from the grocery store called like the Video Movie Guide.
That's what I had, and I used to go through it. And he gave Zombie a fucking turkey.
Probably, yeah.
Unauthorized sequel to George Romero, 1 star.
But it had an amazing filmographies in the back.
Fucking Shattered Dead was in there.
Shattered Dead didn't exist when I bought my copy.
Oh, but I got the 2000 edition. 2001.
Yeah, mine was like 1991 or something.
I got the 2001 edition or something.
But so back then they all had this absolutely fantastic filmographies in the back, and that's what I would use. So I'd see something by Lucio Fulci, who I pronounced Lucio Fulci at the time because I had no idea. And I would just look down the filmography and try to find anything I could. And like you said, the reviews were just like they shit all over everything I liked. But it's the filmographies were essential in those days.
Oh, yeah.
And it was so comprehensive. Yeah, we'll have to talk about the VHS of this in a little bit too.
So you're doing
Oh wait, so wait,
did I choose over Gates of Hell?
No, I think I might choose Gates of Hell.
Okay.
Because that was another one that was just really blew me away when I first saw it, and just even now it's kind of like has that weird like Lovecraftian feel to it.
It's a brilliant movie. It's one of the best.
It's one of and as far as the Fulci stuff goes, it's really colorful. Like I love all that Dunwich stuff. All the I think it's really atmospheric, and the ghosts popping up and out. It leans more supernatural, I feel, than some of his other stuff.
I feel like Fulci's the ultimate Lovecraftian director. When you take the two pictures beyond and that, I think have a great mixture in them. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I love them all. So these movies, I don't even know where like they're gonna rank in my list. And then we have let's go Maniac versus Cannibal Apocalypse.
Maniac's probably better. I mean that's another real sleazy good one too. Maybe, but it's it's funny because I find Cannibal Apocalypse possibly more fun than most of these.
These are not fun movies. They're all right. Cannibal Apocalypse is mean spirited too. There's not one nice movie so far. Cruising. Where do you?
God, Cruising's a masterpiece too.
They're all masterpieces.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. Like it's really hard to compare this year.
Yeah, I don't know how you're going.
We're doing a top 25 because we can't do a top 10. We have to do a top 25 because there's too many good movies.
I mean, you put them in order, or are you? Holy shit! I don't even know how you are going to choose.
I don't.
That's like impossible.
I keep going back and forth on some of them. I'm like, this is 3, this is 4, this is 5. I got my 1, and I've got my 2, and they're not going to change.
Right.
But that's just mostly it's all just. But all these movies I saw young. Like so, I saw most of these when I was from like 10 to like 16 for the first time. So they all have a connection to me on top of that. So it's like you're blinded by nostalgia on top of the quality of the movies.
Right.
So, But I guess maybe some of these ones will get a little easier after those. You don't know Cruising and Cannibal Apocalypse. You can't pick.
I'd probably go Cruising, honestly. Although Cruising was one I didn't see until late. A lot of this stuff, I ended up seeing as a teenager, but that one,
I saw that one late too.
Yeah, I actually didn't see Cruising till the DVD came out, with its, wackadoo color timing.
Yeah.
So yeah, thankfully the Blu-ray fixes that,
yeah.
But
it was blue. I remember the first version I saw was
super blue,
yeah.
super blue.
Well,
in the scene where they're like, pop in what amyl nitrate or whatever the hell it is. I remember the color pulsates in on the I don't know what the fuck Freakin was thinking, but he fucked that all up.
So then we got what's after Cannibal Apocalypse. Go Dress to Kill.
I'd say Cannibal Apocalypse. I like Dress to Kill. I like Dress to Kill a lot. There's some great scenes in there. I think the ending's a little bit of a cheat. But yeah, overall, some of that stuff with the museum and whatnot is fantastic.
The one shots are great in that, for sure.
Right.
High quality filmmaking.
Yeah, although that's not my favorite De Palma. I would go Blowout, easily. Hands down, Blowout's my favorite De Palma.
So some easier ones maybe. Motel Hell versus Cannibal Apocalypse.
This destroys Motel Hell. Although it's funny, I saw Motel Hell on 35mm a few years back, and it actually played really well.
It's a fun movie.
I was gonna say it played a lot better than I was expecting. Watching it with a crowd on the big screen, I was really surprised by how much I enjoyed it. But still, Cannibal, hands down.
Humanoids from the Deep.
Ooh, that's a great one too. Shit. If I was on an island and had to choose, only one tape, I could only fit one tape on the raft after my plane crash. I may go Humanoids.
Not much quite like Humanoids. It's kind of the only exploitation version of that story that's that fun, to be honest.
Right. Yeah.
And that large.
Yeah. I mean, great creature suits, super fast paced, bloody, funny.
Vic Morrow's great, and it's got one of the all-time best scares in the water when the kid goes overboard and they show his point of view getting pulled down in the net. That's fucking horrifying.
Right. And then even, all the stuff that they filmed later, with all the girls and stuff, I thought all that stuff was actually still really well done. It's sleazy, it's exploitative, but it's supposed to be. That's the
I
only
love
reason
it
it's
because
there.
you get the feminist touch, which makes it a high quality, well-made film, and then you get the exploitation touch on top of it, so it makes it vastly entertaining. It's this is kind of best of both worlds.
Right,
exactly. I feel like a troglodyte, but I still like it. And then what about Alligator?
Alligator's practically a perfect movie too. I just rewatched that when the Blu-ray came out earlier this year, and that's definitely gonna make my top 10 discs of the year list. That movie's fantastic. That one might be a little bit more fun than this one. I might give the edge to Alligator.
The Shining.
God damn it. Another masterpiece, another, to me, solid 10.
See, it's tough. It's
right,
tough.
Yeah. God, these were all 1980.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Technically, if you go on the Internet Movie Database, we go by that just to make it easier. Because if you start pulling, so these are 1980 according to the first time they were released wherever. Maybe not widely, but this is where they. Yeah, so 1980. I'm starting to think this and 85 probably are my two favorite years.
Yeah, because 85's got Return of the Living Dead, Reanimator, and
Day of the Dead, Demons, Fright Night, Phenomenon, Midnight Hour, The Stuff, Life Force, Silver Bullet, House. It's got a lot of shit.
Yeah, you ain't kidding.
Yeah. So, but I think 1980 is stronger. I'm not even done yet. So we also got Inferno.
Yeah. Well, 1980 seems like it's more of a serious year compared to 1985. 1985s were more like horror comedy-esque. Grant Demons isn't a horror comedy, but a lot of that stuff kind of has.
85 was the turn where everything's now we're kind of goofy.
Right. Yeah, which is why and then from the late 80s to the mid 90s, it was terrible. Because everything filled with those big rubbery monsters, and you get the occasional thing a Demon Knight or a Cemetery Man or something like that. But for the most part, those were rough years. I think those were really the years where I was starting to watch stuff. That was really my defining years, which is probably why I sort of retreated to the
old
video
movies.
store rental stuff.
So did I.
bootlegs of Italian horror. The only current stuff I was watching at the time was really Hong Kong movies, because they were the only ones that were really exciting and new. Most domestic stuff was just unwatchable.
Speaking of Hong Kong, what would you compare this to Encounters of the Spooky Kind?
I like this better.
Yeah, I do too. Then we got Lost Souls.
Yeah, Lost Souls is a rough one. I think this is better, but I really like Lost Souls. That one. I mean, by the time they're celebrating the guy's birthday by like strapping a boy down to a table for him.
That's awful.
I'm just like, this movie's fucked up.
And then
that was by TF Mao, who did Man Behind the Sun. Yeah,
you don't have to. You can tell.
Yeah, right.
Can this
right.
get any more mean spirited?
Yeah, seriously.
What about the other one? Let me think. The other Hong Kong one would be The Beast. I think is another kind of heavy hitter from 1980.
Yeah, The Beast. I need to rewatch that. It's funny. A buddy of mine, this guy named Ryan Smith, who had actually been helping out me and Art, sourced some stuff for the some of the Hong Kong commentaries we've been doing. He actually just sent me a composite of The Beasts. That's supposed to have like a bunch of different footage from different versions put in, because I think the copy I have is cut. I think it's missing some stuff.
I'd love to see the composite, because I've seen that movie twice. I've seen the English dub and the Cantonese. The Cantonese is much better, of course.
Right.
The English dub is I don't care for it, I don't think. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe.
Well, there were some versions that had hardcore porn cut into it as well.
I never saw that.
And yeah, I don't know if I can't remember if that was a Dutch release or a Greek release or something like that. But yeah, it had hardcore porn in it. I don't know if this copy has that. I haven't even popped it in yet. I just got them the other day. But yeah, The Beasts, I didn't love when I first saw it. I thought it was fine, but I didn't think it was. I didn't consider it like upper tier.
Yeah.
Hong Kong exploitation, which is why I kind of wanted to give it another go. I probably haven't watched it in close to 20 years. So
I think got a couple more heavy hitters. The Changeling. First Cannibal Apocalypse.
Changeling's funny because I actually just saw the Changeling for the first time probably 6 or 7 years ago.
I probably did too, actually.
Yeah, because I stayed away from it back when I was doing all the VHS rentals, because it didn't look like a real slam bang kind of horror movie. And like some of the reviews that I read, like especially in stuff like Deep Red, it's a lot of Chaz Balin stuff. It didn't look. They kind of said it wasn't any gore. It wasn't like that type of movie. So I was like, it's some dry, stuffy sort of thing. Probably sort of Oscar bait-esque crap. But then there was, a few years back, there was a list that came out in some magazine that was circulating around social media. It was like 50, best horror movies of all time. And I was looking over and I'm like, I've seen all of these except for like 2 movies. And one of which was The Changeling. And then the other was that Russian war movie, Come and See.
That movie's rough.
Yeah, it's amazing. I wouldn't consider it a horror movie, but it's horrific.
Yeah, it's real rough.
But so I was like, let me finally watch The Changeling. Whatever. It's not going to kill me. I sat down and watched it, and I loved it.
It's a great movie.
I was amazed by how good it was. I'm like, holy shit! Like, why didn't I watch this for all those years? I was expecting it to just be like boring and stuffy, and it is so compelling. George C. Scott is amazing in it. It's really creepy. And it has just the script is fantastic. It's really good.
Classy too. It's the type of movie they can show anybody, and if they're like, it's like the horror movie you show your mom, and anybody can enjoy it.
Right.
The Fog.
I like this better than The Fog. I really like The Fog, and again, it's another one that seeing it theatrically actually helped me kind of like instilled a better appreciation of it. I still, if memory serves, I have some issues with The Fog. It's not quite.
It's not top tier Carpenter for me. People think it is. I just don't. I like it and I think it's good, but I never put it in that top tier spot. Not top 5.
Right. Like I'd probably give it like a 7 or an 8 or something, but it's not The Thing. It's not, to me, Big Trouble in Little China.
It's not even Christine for me. I love Christine.
Christine, right? Yeah, Christine's a good one. I'd probably rank it about comparable to Christine. But yeah, it's not Escape from New York. It's.
I prefer Prince of Darkness and then The Mouth of Madness over it as well.
Yeah, I love Prince of Darkness. Prince of Darkness really kind of like has a lot of twisted themes to it.
Underrated movie.
Yeah. In the Mouth of Madness never quite clicked for me. There's things I like about it, but to me, that's another one that doesn't quite fully work the way I think it's
kind of hard to grasp your mind around in About the Madness, but with all the people losing their collective minds lately, I think it kind of hits a little closer to home.
Right.
What else do we got? Oh, we got Friday 13th.
God, I mean, that's such a groundbreaker.
Yeah.
And I actually love the first Friday 13th too.
The first 5 I can watch all the time.
Right. Yeah, I think my favorites. I think I probably go 1 and then 5, and then maybe 4, and then then it gets a little great.
Like the first 5 are all ranked around like into quality for me and entertainment, and then like after that, I'm just like, I know people like 6 and it's fine, but it's just not. I tried to rewatch that recently, and I just couldn't enjoy it like the first 5 for some reason.
Right.
So you're going, you don't know on that one?
I might go Friday 13th, maybe.
So
like literally, I reserve the right to change all of this shit tomorrow.
Christmas Evil.
This is way better than Christmas Evil.
Okay. Don't answer the phone.
Oh God, that's one of my movies too. Yeah. Don't Answer the Phone was actually one that I liked more when I started working on that.
Yeah.
Because I helped do some of the extras for really all the extras. For the old BCI Eclipse disc, and then those have kind of carried on to all the other releases since. Like we went out and interviewed Nick Worth, who was buddies. It was funny, Nick didn't have the internet, and didn't have like a DVD player or anything. So when the disc came out and reviews started going up, I would call him and just read him the reviews, from internet sites and stuff. For Don't Answer the Phone, talking about his performance or whatever, and he was like so thrilled to hear that like people were appreciating something he did so long ago. And it's weird because he was totally born again. Like he signed my Don't Answer the Phone poster. Like, God bless you, Bruce. I'm like, this is a movie where you're like strangling naked chicks. But yeah, so it was really funny. But he was such a nice, sweet, awesome dude. But yeah, working on that, watching that movie and doing this featurettes for it really kind of grew my appreciation for it. Yeah, I think I like this one better, but Don't Answer the Phone to me is just a blast too.
Nicholas Worth is one of my all-time favorite character actors, and I like hearing that. I wish I would have got to meet him because we always made the joke that he looked like my friend when he walked in. I was watching Action Jackson or something like that, and he was like, "Who the?" I was like, "That guy's great." He's like, "I love Nicholas Worth." He's like, "It's Fat Bruce Willis." That's what he called him all the time. So we always called him Fat Bruce Willis because in that movie he looks just like Bruce Willis.
Right.
So
but it's funny because he was. He was heavy, but he was solid. He was solid muscle. He was big time into like powerlifting and stuff. Yeah. And there's a shot in Don't Answer the Phone where he's fighting with the cops, and he literally picks the cop up and like slams him down on the couch and stuff. Yeah. I mean, he literally just lifts the guy like over his head.
Yeah, he was awesome.
Yeah. Good guy. But yeah, it's always great to see him turn up. I just saw Exhumed Films' last X Fest. They did this really good. Solid sort of like feminist rape revenge movie called The Ladies Club.
Love Ladies Club.
He popped up in that.
Got a great scene.
It was great. I was so happy to see him on the big screen. Yeah, it's a fantastic movie. Really underrated.
Wakes up in the bathroom. Yeah, that's a good movie. He's also got a crazy scene in The Rape of Richard Beck with Richard,
which
Crenna.
I've never seen. Right, somebody else mentioned that recently. And yeah, I was like, I need to see that. That sounds crazy. It's like a man rape movie, right?
Yeah. Well, I won't spoil anything for you, but I feel like who some of the rapists are in that. And there's a really amazing lineup scene.
I think I have a hunch who it could be, right?
So 3 slashers. I'm sure you probably put all of them over, this. All the Cannibal Apocalypse over all of them. Terror Train, Prom Night, On Scene.
Yes, I would put this way above all of those. Terror Train's one that I like, but it's not a great to me. It's not even in my top like 20 slashers. Same with Prom Night. There's things I like about it, like that scene with the disco on the disco floor with the head.
That's the best part of the movie.
Yeah, exactly. That's
The
fantastic.
disco dancing is the best part of the movie, which is insane. Who would say that?
The Unseen I like a little bit more than those, just because it's so batshit wacky. Like when they reveal the killer in that movie, I almost lost my mind.
It's kind of scary.
Yeah, I couldn't fucking believe it. I was just like slack-jawed watching that one.
And Cindy Lassadick is amazing in that film.
Yeah, he's great. He was good in a movie I really just did a major turnaround on. I remembered seeing it in the VHS days and didn't care much for it, but Cindy Lassick or LASIK. is also in it, was Silent Madness, the Vinegar Syndrome just put
Never
out.
watched that. I'll have to watch that one. He's
so
good in it.
Yeah, well, and it turns out to be a really fun slasher movie. Plus, they put back the gore.
Nice.
Like, I haven't really seen anybody talk about it, but there was gore in there that I'm pretty sure was censored for the R rating before. Quite a few, like probably 3 or 4 little scenes that were a bit more graphic than what I'd seen before. Plus, seeing it in full scope, and a good looking print of it, it really made like a way different impression on me than it did. Like, I was ready to just write it off, but I was like, you know what? I'm kind of in a slasher mood. I'll sit down and watch this again because, you know, not having seen it in close to 30 years.
So I got,
and yeah, it really surprised me. So yeah,
I'll have to watch that.
Silent Madness, give it a look.
I have that Blu-ray, of course. There's 3 more.
Okay.
Mother's Day, love.
I like this a little bit better. Mother's Day, there's so much I like about it, but at the same time, it's so one note almost. It's like, because like the first hour is pretty much like the same shit, like just over. It's just the 2 brothers being ridiculous. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's not till she escapes that it kind of starts getting revenge that it seems, you know, a little more interesting. And then the stuff with like the sister, you know, in the woods.
Yeah.
And
the ending's great in Mother's Day. It's a really great ending. Hell of the Living Dead.
The worst. So I kind of like Hell of the Living Dead these days. In the VHS days, as Night of the Zombies, I was always fascinated with that tape. I bought that tape the same day I bought my tapes from a video store of Evil Dead 1 and 2 and Dawn of the Dead. Ooh. And like Night of the Zombies was the one I'd never seen before. And I remember showing my girlfriend at the time, you know, we watched the other ones. And then we put in Night of the Zombies. And it was just terrible. Remember what, you couldn't see anything on that old Vestron tape. And it was so fucking bad. So it wasn't until years later when I kind of like started to appreciate Bruno Mattei that I kind of went back around on. So it really wasn't until like around the Anchor Bay DVD came out that I kind of, I started rating that one a little more fun. But it's not a good movie. No. Like, nobody can ever argue that it's good.
I love it, but
any sense of the word, right? So yeah, Cannibal Apocalypse is a legitimately good movie. So way above that.
And Nightmare City.
Nightmare City is another fun one. I'd rank this higher. But my favorite scene in all of Nightmare City is when the zombies, if you want to call them that, or the infected folk, break into the hospital operating room, and the doctor just turns with his scalpel and flings it right at a zombie, and it hits him. Like the doctor had been practicing throwing scalpels for like his entire life. He'd been thinking about it for like 10 years. Right, just waiting for the moment to come, and sure enough, it did. It's my favorite part of the entire movie. But yeah, that's a really fun one too.
I mean, there's some other ones, but I doubt they'll rank higher. Eaten Alive, Zombie Holocaust, Hex, all these movies.
Ooh, Zombie Holocaust is another favorite of mine. Yeah, that and Burial Ground are kind of like 2 of my top 10 all-time Eurotrash movies. I always kind of like the ones that are a little bit weirder and like a little bit more off kilter.
I like that one too.
Yeah. Zombie Holocaust. I actually prefer the Dr. Butcher MD cut.
Yeah,
because that was how I first saw it, with like all that weird shit in the beginning and the weird score that's like ding dong ding dong dong. Like, it's so terrible. But for me, it works. So yeah. That one I might rank Dr. Butcher higher than Cannibal Apocalypse.
And then, of course, I think there's other ones that are borderline horror, like Ninth Configuration and stuff like that.
Yeah, which is great. Yeah, it's a great one. But
so, like I'm telling you, 1980, Shogun Assassin 2. It's a great year. It's a great year. It's one of the best, hands down.
Mm-hmm. So when was your first time seeing this?
I was about 13 years old. I rented The Invasion from the Flesh Hunters on the Video Treasures VHS from a place called Video News. We got some chicken legs from KFC, and I went home in my bedroom and watched it and loved it. You?
Yeah, so not a dissimilar story. The first time I got it was from a place called the Video Store. Imagine that real imaginative name for the store. Again, I rented the Vestron, I believe, tape of Invasion of the Flesh Hunters, and watched that. And I really liked it, but I could tell it was cut. Just watching it,
it is the cut version.
Yeah, it kind of like starts going up to some of these scenes. They kind of build up and then cut away. So I remembered that, but reading about it in magazines as Cannibal Apocalypse, I'm like, they sort of confirmed that, you need to see the uncut version. So at the time, I was calling around video stores because I didn't know any better, looking for some of these movies I was reading about, because I just started getting into like Deep Red.
Yeah.
and things like that. And I remember calling around video stores asking if they had Cannibal Holocaust. And of course, you know, it never had a video release here.
No.
So of course, all these stores, everybody said no. And I called like all the stores like in my county that I figured I could probably talk my mom into driving me to. And eventually, so there was a second guide that I bought at the grocery store. In addition to the video movie guide, I bought Leonard Maltin's guide. And in the back of there, they had a list of resources of places you could go to buy movies. And one of the places they listed was a store called the Video Vault in Alexandria, Virginia. And they did mail order rentals. So they would actually mail you tapes. And their slogan was guaranteed worst movies in town. So I'm like, holy shit, this sounds right up my alley. So I called them and I'm like, hey, do you have Cannibal Holocaust? And they were like, yes. So I'm like, holy shit. So I basically begged my mom to allow me to use her credit card to sign up an account and have them mail me these movies. Like you would give them a list of 6 movies and they would mail you 3 of them. So like my very first batch of titles I got was The Beyond, Cannibal Holocaust, and Let Sleeping Corpses Lie.
Great. All great movies.
Right.
10 out of 10.
Exactly. And then so I mailed those back and I kept trying to get Meet the Feebles because that wasn't available in video
Another
here.
10 out of 10.
Right. That wasn't available in video here. And like every single time I put that as my number 1 pick and I never fucking got it. So it wasn't until the Dead Alive tape came out that I actually managed to see that. But my second order from them, they said they had, you know, looking through the list, they had Cannibal Apocalypse listed. And I'm like, oh, this must be the uncut version. So I got like that, Last House on Dead End Street, which funny enough, their version of Last House on Dead End Street, the Sun tape, was the actual uncut version of the movie, which is the only time I've ever seen an uncut copy of it on Sun. So I made a dupe of that, and I actually made Art a copy of that as well. And it was that tape that was used for the gore scene in the Barrel Entertainment DVD.
Really?
Yeah. So
that's insane.
That was my old copy, you know, me duping Video Vault's old copy. But yeah, so I got Last House on Dead End Street, Man Behind the Sun, and Cannibal Apocalypse. So their version of Cannibal Apocalypse ended up being a Spanish subtitled version that had a little bit more gore, but for the most part, it was still the same. And I'm like, well, this doesn't seem right. And then later, you know, so then a few years later, I became pen pals with Chaz Ballin and, you know, started writing to him. And he sold videos as well. He'll sell bootlegs. And he had Cannibal Apocalypse listed in his bootleg catalog from a Japanese source. I'm like, all right. I'm like, Japanese sources are always the best sources. I'm like, they got to be, this has to be it. So finally, I bought a copy for him because, again, like I would beg my mom for like Christmas. I'd be like, "Oh, buy me these 10 movies for Christmas."
Too. I'm like, give her a list of fucking gnarly shit when I'm like 13. And
exactly.
It's just like, what is this?
Exactly.
Just don't look at it. Don't read the title. You don't need to know what it is. Just buy me it for Christmas,
right,
please.
Right, please. That's all I want.
I need it.
So I finally got the Japanese copy of that, and voila, it was finally uncut. You know, I finally saw like the hole in John Morgan's stomach, and you know, this the bone saw scene that goes on forever.
With
it's
that
like
music?
Yeah. And it's like that bone saw scene is like so protracted. It's like there's no reason for it to be that long, but it's like literally like done in real time of them like sawing through this guy's leg. But so strangely enough, so that was fine for a while. But then once I started getting into like tape trading and stuff, like in the late 90s, like mid to late 90s, I was no longer satisfied with just bootlegs.
Of course.
So I mean, I know I've seen your spread. I know you, like me, are a very big proponent of physical media.
Yeah.
So I actually eventually came in contact with this Japanese guy named Yoshitomo Fuji, who I'm actually now friends with on social media, weirdly enough. But back in those days, he was like one of the biggest suppliers of Japanese tapes to people like Midnight Video and like all these bootleggers. Like he was their main source. So I started writing to him and being like, hey, here's a wish list of titles. What do you have? I remember like the first 2 tapes I bought were actually Killer Crocodile, which we mentioned earlier, and Fulci's Demonia. So like, yeah, just getting actual Japanese tapes of those.
You're downgrading a little bit from the beginning, I must say.
I
But
know,
not too bad. Not too bad.
But look, they were a good start. Yeah, that was what was available. But so eventually I was able to get the actual Japanese pre-record of Cannibal Apocalypse. Here's my, 25-year-old acquisition of the original Japanese pre-record.
That's awesome.
Of Cannibal Apocalypse.
If anybody doesn't know, the Japanese tapes will play on the American VCRs. I think they were
yes.
NTSC.
Yeah,
and the Euro stuff was Paul. So
But yeah, I used to think I was such hot shit for having stuff like that and like Burial Ground and Zombie 3 and like all that stuff. I used to have like Japanese originals. Like I thought I was like the coolest guy around because I wasn't like a bootlegger. But you know, having originals of this stuff definitely made you cooler on the tape trading circuit because people would get quality the same as from any other bootlegger. You know, like I had like one of those like double deck VCRs that were like industrial strength and stuff. So yeah, it was pretty cool for a while. And then of course the DVD came out and then rendered that worthless. So
well, I mean, I remember getting the DVD of this one at Best Buy of all places. right. The first day it came out, I was like, I was getting all the MGM $10 titles like The Fog and The Howling and stuff for $10, and there's like Cannibal Apocalypse is $20. I'm like, but I gotta have Cannibal Apocalypse. I love this movie. And when I got the DVD, I was like, it's uncut? Cool. Cool. It's like 2001, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that means I was like 15 years old when I bought that DVD.
Well, the funniest thing about buying these tapes from Yoshitomo in Japan was, in order to get them, I would literally mail an envelope full of cash to Japan.
Ooh, that's scary.
And it's like I would just try to like bundle them up, like fold them up like inside of other paper so you couldn't see them through the envelopes, and like tape everything up. And basically, I would just mail him an envelope full of cash and wait like months. It would take like 2-month turnaround time at least.
I remember doing that snail
to get
mail.
these tapes back. And like, can you imagine today's era of like entitled brats like sitting through that? Like, I see people losing their fucking minds like 2 weeks after a Severance sale. You know,
I was upset with 3 weeks waiting for the Dead Next Door to get from Tempe because you send in your money and you wait your check, and then they got to wait for the check clears. I'm like, I was waiting all summer. It felt like for 3 weeks to get the Dead Next Door, and then when it finally came, I was like.
Well, we were like that with bootleg tapes too. I mean, they were all made to order. Yeah, so like those Christmas orders that we would do, you know, you wouldn't expect to see those back for like 6 weeks at least. You know, so yeah, it's amazing how impatient everybody's become.
That's gotten fucked up is like, I won't buy bootlegs anymore. If the movie's not available, I'm sorry. Like, I'll buy it when it gets officially released.
Right.
But I'm just gonna download it, then buy it when it comes out if it's not officially available.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes they're a bit of a necessary evil, unfortunately. Yeah. Sometimes, you know, especially with, you know, if I'm researching
back in the day,
something.
you had no choice.
Right. But even now, like, there's like I recently just picked up like a bunch of Hong Kong movies that like played HD on like Chinese TV, but like there's no Blu-rays available of them. So you know, some stuff that I kind of wanted to check out. I've gotten HD
rips of movies that never had Blu-rays. Like
exactly.
The Lost Souls has a German Blu-ray, right? But no English subtitles.
Oh,
so people they rip the blue and they put the English subs on there, and then they sell a bootleg of it, and you're like, well, I gotta have Lost Souls on Blu-ray, or just at least an HD copy of it, right?
Right, exactly.
But then when it gets released here, I'll buy it or whatever, you know. But nowadays, you look online and there's people selling bootlegs for like $25, and you're like, I'm sorry, but like, I know they look high quality, but kind of go fuck yourself. A bootleg's $10, bro.
Right,
it's $10.
Exactly.
Like, that's the going rate, right?
Yeah,
$10.
Yeah, I see that in the groups all the time. It's amazing.
I just could never pay that much for a boot.
Yeah,
you know?
no, never.
It's insulting. Just give me the fucking disc. I don't need your cover art. It's a piece of shit. It's fake, anyways.
Right? Yeah,
it's fucking fake. Just give me the disc, right?
With your garbage FBI warnings or whatever on it.
Yeah,
like, come on now.
Fuck off, man.
Right.
Like, it's a boot. I mean, I used to buy boots back in the day when I have a choice, but after a while, you're like, why spend money on the boots when I can just go to a website and buy the real thing now? Like a lot of the other copies, because there's millions of movies I want to buy. I'm not going to spend it on a boot right now.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing. I mean, there's never a point in time where I don't have like 2,000 movies sitting here that I haven't watched. And I'm sure, I'm sure you're just like me.
Yeah.
I mean, I get so much shit every week that it's impossible to keep up. You know, I'll be happy. You know, I'll watch 10 movies a week, and I'll be like, yeah, good job. Meanwhile, I get like 30 movies.
I've had to slow down because I'm going to Cinema Wasteland, and it's like I don't want to spend too much. And then I'm like, I won't even spend much there because I want to save for the year-end sale. I'm at the Black Friday. I want to get the yearly package for Vinegar Syndrome. You got to save.
Right.
Is there anything you wanted to plug?
No.
Not any of the commentaries you have?
Yeah, check out our new commentaries on Dr. Lamb, House on the Edge of the Park, Untold Story, whatever else I've done. I think those are the most recent ones, aren't they? Or Contraband. I did Contraband for Cauldron.
Yeah.
Jumped on with Troy and Nathaniel for that.
Yeah, that was good.
I have a few more coming up. I don't think I can announce anything. Doing doing another pair of Category 3 movies with Art.
Nice.
I might be jumping on one with my buddy Brian Sen for a 50 sci-fi movie, which is a bit different than what I've, all the sleazy things I've done before.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, going from Emmanuel in America to this. Working on some stuff for Vinegar Syndrome. I was supposed to have done a commentary for them with Nathaniel like 2 years ago, and literally the transfer they keep getting back was kept getting fucked up. So I don't know what's going on with that.
Means anymore. It's probably from Italy,
right? But yeah, it's the last time I heard, the scan they got was out of focus. So that one didn't fly.
It'll happen eventually. I appreciate you doing this.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me. I said, it's something I normally do. So probably because although I am happy I do get to capture my COVID look for posterity. I used to be nice and clean cut, and then when we started working from home, I figured, hey, it'd be funny to see how long my beard and hair will get in the 6 weeks that I'm supposed to be working from home. And then next thing, it was 2.5 years later. So actually, I'm getting ready to clean up in the next few days. But I figured I at least wanted to capture it on here for posterity.
No, it doesn't look bad. I mean, it's not uncapped. It's just a big beard. It's not like there's barbecue sauce in there.
There might be. I'm not sure.
There might. You can never tell. When I used to have a beard, it always smelled like barbecue sauce.
But yeah, perfect. Yeah.
Thanks for doing it again. Any last words on Cannibal Apocalypse?
No, it's a great movie. Everybody needs to check it out. And if you don't like it, don't be my friend.
If you don't like it, go watch something that sucks.
Right.
See ya.
All right. Have a good one.
Will they look for Antina?
Should I call for the coroner, Chief?
Yeah. And tell them this fucking nightmare's over.
Scott 25.